Well, what a finish at Clune Arena as the Air Force Falcons hang on for a 58-56 win over the Omaha Mavericks. Mavs had the ball, had a timeout, had a play drawn up with 11.9 seconds left, but unable to get that final bucket to tie or send this thing to overtime and back courtside in Colorado Springs. Alongside Rachel Galligan, my name is Tyler Mon. Rachel, that's the end of 3 games in 4 days for this Omaha team, for this Air Force team. That's a gut check kind of victory. And those are the types of wins that you look back on in March and think, now you know that we can go to the well and draw from that experience to get those difficult late season wins if you're Air Force and Joe Scott.
Yeah, and it wasn't a pretty second half for the Air Force Falcons. They really didn't do a very great job at taking care of the basketball late, had some late turnovers, and that kind of was an Achilles heel and allowed Omaha to get back into the game. They found their rhythm offensively, but just down the stretch, being able to come up with gut check, really tough stops when they needed them. And Bo Becker was in foul trouble. That was a huge aspect of this game, but Ethan Taylor did what he does. He came up with some big shots, but then you had other guys that needed to step up and contribute offensively that were huge.
For the Falcons, this win, their 4th of the season in 6 games. Let's take a look at some highlights from win number 4 for this Air Force squad. As the second half, Omaha won the second half. It was a 5-point lead at halftime for Air Force. The Mavericks came out and got some really good work early on from Marcel Bryant.
Bryant was a force. I mean, he really got them going offensively, just attacking off the dribble, finishing around the rim. He finished with 6 points for Omaha. But on the Air Force side of things, I mean, you had other guys late in the second half that needed to step up and contribute offensively. Kellen Boylan was one of those guys, 13 points, 4 of 8 from the field. And how about Corbin Green? I mean, he's shown us before his ability to score. Had one of the biggest buckets in the game. We'll see that here in a second. But Corbin Green, huge contributions, huge minutes down the stretch. He finished with 11.
Yeah, unless it's a buzzer beater, you don't really get credited with a game-winning bucket. But Corbin Green down the stretch, that huge basket late as he was able to get this thing over the line for Air Force. But man, Nick Davis was a force as well on the Omaha side. And here's a look at this Green sequence late.
This was such a gutsy shot for a sophomore to take in this scenario. And this ended up putting Air Force ahead, sealing the deal. Then they had to do what they do, and that is rely on what they do on the defensive end of the floor, coming up with stops. Great defense here. Frankie Fiddler not fouling on the possession. Again, just a gutsy stop when you needed it, and that ultimately sealed the deal.
You really just can't say enough about Kellen Boylan being able to stand in, go verticality, keep those arms up in that sequence at the end. Not a day for shooters, really, on the Omaha side, especially 35% from the floor. But Air Force, even despite being outscored impressively so by Omaha's bench, the blocks, the turnovers they forced, that's a Falcons type of win.
Yeah, I mean, Air Force, here's an interesting part. Omaha had 11 offensive rebounds, but only 2 second chance points. So Air Force did a really good job of just defending secondary shots on those types of possessions. And I mean, like you said, it wasn't the prettiest game, but a gutsy win.
And for the Falcons, a 4-2 record, you'll take that any day of the week. A team that won 9 non-conference games last season, now almost halfway to that mark. And this is the type of win that, I mean, there's an emotional lift that comes from a win like this, taking a 2-point victory with a defensive stand to end it.
Well, and just, again, putting together 40-minute efforts. That's what Joe Scott wanted out of his team, coming back home and playing in this homestead. They're going to get one more at home on Wednesday. But what I've seen from this team is just growth on both ends of the floor and not allowing themselves to waver in those final moments.
Speaking of a strong 40 minutes, 3 games in 4 days, strong 40 minutes for Rachel Galligan. Fantastic work from my broadcast partner as the Air Force Falcons take down the Omaha Mavericks. 58-56, the final in this one, and we will say goodbye. Falcons will be back home coming up on Wednesday against VMI, and we will be back on the air for that one, 4 o'clock for tip-off between the Falcons and the VMI Keydets. This game has been a broadcast and presentation of Altitude Sports and Entertainment, your home for the Air Force Falcons. For myself, Tyler Mon, Rachel Galligan, and our entire crew, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you all season long on Altitude Sports.